because I can't.
So you have to apply
Testing.
a year in advance.
Testing, 1, 2,
So like,
3.
if you want to apply, no. I'm just telling you the direction.
No, it's loud.
What do you say?
Swear. I watched his thing yesterday.
Hey, haven't officially met you, Sai.
Danny,
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Start trying to get all the votes.
No, it's called becoming friends
Can you hear
with
me?
people for the sake of.
Yes.
So I will be using a mic at any point.
I don't know. That's up to y'all.
Are you a speaker or candidate? Well, you're the president, so.
Well, he's a candidate for the president position.
Thanks.
candidate.
You can't just speak it into
Yeah, I
existence.
mean, you're. Can't say it on the.
I mean, they have to get here by 6:45. They're fine.
Nose. Oh.
No,
Oh,
Ariana told us it was
What if I'm the
6:45.
only one
They're
who's
fine.
here?
Yeah.
If I'm the only one who's here.
Where is Jess? I don't want this happening.
Then trying to do me dirty.
Okay. Hopefully we'll do it like this because I think you guys booked 3 mics, but I'm just gonna do a 4th one. Make it easier. And so I will just give everyone a lapel mic the first 2 rounds. 4 people, like 2 for first round, 2 for
Yes.
second. So I'm just gonna
How you
give
turn
This
this off?
caption was
people a mic.
wholesome men in.
Hey, Brenda.
Every day.
William, your tie looks really good. That's okay. Everyone should know.
Complimentary chips.
Do you guys? Oh, gosh, darn it. Do you have the link for the live stream?
It's Georgia State Signal.
It's on the Georgia State Signal.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No, no problem.
Okay, awesome.
No, it's
Talk.
GeorgiaStateSignal.com/live.
/live, yeah.
That's all.
It should pop up right in the middle of the page.
Or on the YouTube, whatever you want to
So yeah, one of the Macs wouldn't let me do it.
Tweet-
The other Mac
tweet
let me
it
do
out.
So.
Okay, do you have a pen?
Yeah. Well, it's in my bag.
I can go grab mine.
Yeah.
Where did I put my bag? Hey, Jessica.
Yeah, it's me, Jessica, and mine stay odd. But she's not here. She forgot what?
How do I turn it
No,
off?
she was for Brenda. Right here.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
What's in here?
So just anything you want to talk about, it's up to you.
Well,
No, I just wanted to receive it in my pocket, and then you were like looking at me.
all right, so my favorite candy is Sour Patch Kids because first they're sour and then they're
Then you're
sweet.
sweet.
The other candidate can use the microphone.
Sorry, battery life you got going on here.
Testing, testing. Boom, 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 boom.
So you can just kind of just talk a little bit and walk around a little bit, just kind of see how it is. Kind of on stage, as close to stage as possible.
Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-dum-bum-bum-bum-bum. Ba-da-dum. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-dum-bum-bum. Ba-da-dum-bum. Ba-da-dum-bum-bum-bum. Ba-da-dum. Ba-da-dum-bum-bum-bum. Bum-bum.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That the buildings were going to be the excuse. I thought it was going to be something like
Okay.
Whatever you
Cheese, yellow, blue. No, I like American provolone. White American. White American. Yes. Ew. I don't like spicy.
Tomorrow, you're back and you say, yes, I meant, and quite frankly, it's really short turnaround to find someone to take the training.
Yeah. So let's do one more,
could you
like go
do it
around
next
right
Wednesday?
before everything starts.
Okay.
For everyone.
Just reply to that email.
But
telling
yours
me,
sounds great right now.
Yeah.
breaks in between, right? There has to be.
I think we just go. So 2 hours.
Okay.
Here we go. I think there might be
Do you
like
have water?
I do have water right down here.
Do you care if I have a little?
Yeah, you can have it.
I don't know. Some people are weird.
It's like almost out, so like don't worry about it. But
You started off, so it's okay.
yeah, it'll be fine. Okay. All right. Here we go. Start. Oh.
Test.
Test.
Testing. I think we can.
Are we good? All right. Are we good to? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2018 Student Government Association debate hosted by the Georgia State Signal, the university's independent newspaper that strives to provide timely and objective news. Tonight features candidates for the Speaker of the Senate, Executive Vice President, and President. These debates are streaming live at georgiastatesignal.com/live. My name is William Solomons, and I am one of the moderators for this evening. I'm currently a freshman here at Georgia State and a news reporter for the Signal.
And my name is Brenna Hilby, and I'm the other moderator for this evening. I'm currently a sophomore and work as a news reporter as well for the Signal. At the beginning of each debate, candidates will have 1 minute to introduce themselves. The candidates will then be asked 3 questions posed by the moderators, each to which they will have a minute to respond. If another candidate would like a rebuttal to that response or add in their own answer, they can have 30 seconds to do so. At the end of each debate, we will open the floor to the audience and give you all the opportunity to ask your candidates a couple of questions. And at this time, I'd like to introduce candidates for Speaker of the Senate, Jessica Seymour and Fatoumata Berry. Please come to the stage now. And Ms. Berry, you have the floor for 1 minute for your introduction.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fatoumata Berry. I am currently a sophomore criminal justice major, pre-law concentration, and a minor in chemistry. I'm currently president of the TRIO Student Ambassadors Program, and I'm also a senator for the Andrew Young College of Policy Studies. I just transferred from the College of Arts and Sciences, where I served as the head senator.
Okay, thank you so much. And Ms. Seymour, you have 1 minute for your introduction as well.
Hi, my name is Jessica Seymour. So I'm a 4th-year graduate student in the Department of Chemistry. I'm currently working towards my PhD in biochemistry, and I actually also collaborate in the biology program. So I started my time at Georgia State in August 2014. After doing my undergrad at Georgia Tech in biomedical engineering. So this year, or actually last year, I became involved with student government as a senator for the College of Arts and Sciences. And this year, I'm one of 2 graduate senators for the College of Arts and Sciences as well. And I've been serving as the chair of academic affairs for the Atlanta campus. So that's kind of been what I do with SGA, and then outside of that, I also teach and I advise the iGEM Club at Georgia State.
Great, thank you so much. Ms. Berry, I'm going to ask you one question first. In your application, you mentioned that you want to foster more transparency between SGA and the student body. So what specific actions will you take to ensure that constituents have their voices heard?
So a lot of times in the SGA office, when I sit in there, I see a lot of students come in and out. So one of the things that I plan on doing is making sure, like during my office hours, if there's no one speaking to me inside of my office, I will sit outside and talk to the students that are coming in and out, try and get to know them and see if they have any concerns that they would like to see resolved within Georgia State. And also, I know this year our student communications director, Sai, was saying that he wanted to table almost every week, and plaza. So that's another thing that I wanted to do, was sit out there with whoever serves as the communications director and, you know, try and get students to come along and for me to hear their voices. And also another thing that I plan on doing is helping the senators make sure that they fulfill their platform, because a lot of students come in and say they want to make sure that students get their voices heard, but they really don't know what to do. They just take the position.
All right, thank you, Ms. Berry.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, no problem.
The next question is for Ms. Seamer. How do you plan on giving the appropriate amount of attention to SGA while you're also pursuing your PhD and other programs in graduate school?
So one of the great things about being a graduate student is you have a lot of independence in your time. So for me, I'm a PhD candidate, so that means I'm actually already done with my classes. I've been done with classes for a couple of years now. So when I come to campus, really I have a good 12 hours that I divide up my time however I want. And so one thing that I've really learned through my undergraduate career as well as my graduate career is I personally thrive being a very busy person. So a lot of the time you will see me like booking it from NSC down to PSC and then back into the SGA office and kind of doing rounds around campus. And that's really how I find myself being the most productive, is just carving out that time and organizing my week. So it's actually a very easy thing, and I think I actually do it very well because you'll make time for things that you actually care about.
Great, thank you so much. And one more question for Ms. Berry. Why is it important to have consistent communication between all entities of SGA, and what are ideas you have for improving communication between all SGA entities?
So the important thing about communication between all entities in student government is that to make sure everyone is on the same page. Like I said before, a lot of people come into SGA, they're new, they don't know any of the bylaws, or they don't know what steps they can take to make sure that they fulfill the platform that they came in with. So my goal is to make sure that I meet at least with the senators 2 times a semester to make sure they have all the resources that they need to fulfill their platform. And what was the second question?
What are ideas you have for improving communication between SGA entities?
All right, so another way that I have to improve is for us to have like outings, or if not outings, like meet before each meeting or after each meeting, make sure that everyone really knows each other, because the #1 way to have effective communication is that everyone gets along. So we want to make sure that we're a big family, just like other universities.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, so another question for you, Ms. Seamer, is how do you plan on creating a stronger relationship between graduate students and undergraduate students, seeing as you're a graduate student yourself? And in that, how do you plan on connecting with those undergraduate students?
Definitely. So one of the things that I always like to point out about being Speaker of the Senate is it's not really always a glamorous job, because really you're doing a lot of the administrative work to really just keep the Senate on track and keeping agenda and things like that. But it's an important job in that it can really affect kind of the culture of your organization, and it can kind of really modify the way people are involved. So one thing that I see a lot in SGA is people kind of drift off when they feel like the work that they're putting in, they're not seeing a lot of results off of that. So as a speaker, really you're the person that kind of helps facilitate that people are connecting and making sure that their time is worthwhile. So a lot of the time graduate students feel that their time that they're putting in, they're not really getting a lot out of it. And that's really because they're not working, they feel like we're focusing on one issue more than another when it's other undergraduate, and there's not a lot of understanding between like what are the main issues for graduate students. Undergrads don't understand.
Thank you, Ms. Seamer.
Yeah.
All right. So at this time, if there is anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. Yes.
All right. Hey everyone, my name is Anthony Jones. I'm the current speaker of the Center for the Atlanta campus. My question to y'all.
If you could please move to the microphone in the center of the room, sorry.
Hello. All right. Hey everyone, my name is Anthony Jones. I am the current speaker of the Senate for the Atlanta campus. My question for both of the speaker candidates would be, what is one change you want to make next semester as Speaker of the Senate? for Student Government Association?
Okay, so one change that I want to make is to, like I said, make sure that there's effective communication between the speaker and the senators, because a lot of times throughout the semester, senators slack off and they kind of forget the commitment that what they swore that they would do, and they don't do it. So I just want to make sure that they have all the resources that they need, and just to let them know that I'm there for them if they need anything.
So I think like one thing that you found as a challenge is kind of like keeping the pace with making sure agendas are going out, keeping up with people's attendance. And a lot of that is because you need a lot of feedback from everything. Like you have chairs that need to give their attendance to that. You need to get the minutes from other people. So just staying on top of that communication to give people enough time, like what Fatimata was saying, that there's a clear communication that when you see that someone's beginning to drift away, that you can kind of intervene at that point when they're just beginning to slack away, to just say, hey, what's going on in your life? Because I know you were passionate about this beforehand. So what's going on? What's changed? What can I do to fix that problem for you if there is a problem?
Thank you.
All right, does anyone have any more questions? All right, so we're gonna ask a couple questions that are for both of you, and we're gonna start with you, Ms. Berry. So you got it.
So the first question, you each have a minute to respond. How do you plan to improve senator involvement and presence in and out of meetings? And Ms. Berry, you have the floor.
So, like I said before, a lot of people I know, like a lot of people who I know that were in SGA this semester or this year, they kind of, slack off because they forget the commitment that they made. So what I want to do is make sure that I have constant communication with them to make sure that they have all the resources that they need to fulfill, the platform that they came in with. I know it's hard to try and get students' voices to be heard, but the most important thing that you have to do is go out there and make sure that you show your face. So one thing that I wanted to do was try and team up with the new student orientation leaders and see if we can go into the classrooms for one day, not all the classrooms, but as many as we can, so that we can get students' involvement to come to know where the SGA office is, so that they
Thank
can
you, Ms.
get
Berry.
Okay.
And the second question, again, for Ms. Seymour, how do you plan to improve senator involvement in and out of meetings?
So one thing that I've seen a lot is people come in very passionate with a lot of ideas. And then what inevitably happens is they start to implement their ideas and they hit a wall because they found out something where GSU doesn't really work that way, or they come up into some institutional or bureaucratic kind of thing that they realize that it's a completely different route that they need to take in order to accomplish things. So one of the benefits that I think I bring to the table is that I've been around GSU for a fairly long time, and I've been able to see it from a lot of different perspectives. I'm usually sit on a number of funding councils and things like that, so I know at least how money usually works at Georgia State. And I kind of just see how different departments do things. So I think for me, I provide a big resource for senators to come bounce ideas off of me. I can tell them whether it's a realistic thing or how can they reshape that idea so that it is something that could be implemented within their time here.
All right, thank you, Ms. Seymour. So at this time, that concludes our debate for the Speaker of the Senate. We're going to take a 10-minute break as an intermission, so yeah.
And thank you to both of our candidates. Let's give a round of applause.
Okay.
Let's prompt some
Try to get my
conversation.
parents to watch the live stream.
I haven't even like told my parents.
Really?
Yeah.
I tell my parents like everything I do. Okay. So we should do this way.
Wait.
We don't have any questions that revolve around both of them, but we can probably think of some. So the smoking one is definitely going to be a president thing.
Should we?
Do I have anything around my mouth? Like,
Do I have? Do I
you're
have
fine.
any?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. All right.
A headline just popped up. The U.S. has the authority to execute drug dealers. They just never do. You know about that in Myanmar?
No, I've never heard about that.
It's like basically a cultural genocide.
Let me turn my
Oh yeah.
my vibrate off.
I just put do not disturb.
See,
on.
it's all the way down. And
I
like,
can use my watch for timing.
I'd rather have the phone.
Do you want?
in general?
Do you want a question like for the EVPs, or do you just let's just alternate between like
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Like I can.
you know what we did last time, like we have these questions and we can just alternate between the people and like you know what I'm saying. And also I'm gonna go over these again.
The rules again? I think we're good on the rules.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna. Do you want to open it up, or I can?
I don't know.
All right. All right. I'll do it. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the 2018 Georgia State University Student Government Association debates. At this time, I would like to welcome our EVP candidates to the stage, Aisha Iqbal and Anthony Jones. All right, so just like last round, again, you're going to have 1 minute per question with a 30-second rebuttal time or a follow-up if the other candidate wishes to do so. But at this time, I would like to ask Ms. Iqbal to give a 1 minute introduction.
Okay, is this on? Okay. Hi, my name is Aisha Iqbal. I'm a current junior at Georgia State University. I'm studying public policy, and I aspire to go to law school in the near future. Outside of academics, I'm a relatively well-known artist, both in the Atlanta community and online. More so, I'm also a business owner of 2 successful businesses. And so my point of telling you that is that my everyday life deals with dealing with people. That my main goal is finding problems and solving problems. And I hope that as the executive vice president, if I'm elected, that I can make the university a better place. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and Mr. Jones, you now have 1 minute to introduce yourself.
All right, cool. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Jones. I am a sophomore double major in political science and social entrepreneurship. I currently serve as the Student Government Association Speaker of the Senate for the Atlanta campus. I am a part of 1913 and I'm also a student ambassador for a culturally competent climate, as well as being a student orientation leader for the 2018-2019 school year. I say all of that to tell you that all of my titles and occupations on campus deal with people and the future and betterment of our university. I sat on several committees this year. I chaired the mandatory fee committee. I sat on the commencement committee with President Becker, and I also had to facilitate every Student Government Association Atlanta campus Senate meeting. I say all of that to say that hard work is not something that is slighted or blighted by myself. I work diligently in the Student Government Association office, fulfilling my office hours to make sure that our student government does what it needs to do to secure and complete the task brought to us by our students.
Great, thank you so much. And Ms. Iqbal, the first question is for you. You told the Signal in responses that you would like to address issues like campus safety and the campus carry law. How do you plan on making sure students are aware and know the procedures involved in the event of a crisis, such as a shooting?
Okay, well, I'm glad that you asked this question because I think this is a really relevant topic. So first of all, I think we need to know that our university, all 29 board members voted against the Campus Carry Act. In addition to that, all the universities in Georgia, the people who sat on the board, they also voted against it. And studies in our campus have shown that the majority of students are against the Campus Carry Act. And so the question is, why do we have a campus carry law if most of the students are against it? So I think it is our responsibility as students who are in power to address this problem. And if the majority of the students are against it, then we need to take action against it. And so you were saying in the event of like a mass shooting, First of all, I think we need to be, like, we should know that, okay, about the police officers, most of the police officers are against the Campus Carry Act, but we should know their locations, we should
Thank
know.
you, Ms. Iqbal.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Jones, I would like to ask you the same question, revolving around campus safety and campus carry law. What is your opinion on it, and how would you make students more aware of the procedures involved in preventing and if a crisis were to occur?
So campus safety is one of the main things that all parents think of when they're sending their students to Georgia State. We have a structure of our campus similar to NYU where we're integrated into the city. We say that because our campus isn't the most secured, in the sense that it's not blocked off like, say, UGA or an Emory. Because of that, the campus police have made great strides in making sure that our campus is safe. We actually formed a committee, safety ad hoc committee this past year to help our relationship with the campus police. We brought out the chief of police, Chief Spillane, to one of our meetings to talk to us as well. I know at student orientation they do a great job of telling all freshmen what the campus police number is, and there are also call boxes stationed across the entire campus. I say all of that to say that Georgia State does take its precautions in securing the campus.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. So another question for you is that we all know that transportation is a big issue in Atlanta. And you told the Signal that you would like to open up more parking specifically to help the commuter students who do have to transport themselves every day to campus. What are some specific ways that you plan to include commuter students and students from other campuses and other initiatives during your term?
Well, the main way is just communication. What I've realized with sitting on all of these committees is that the administration does not know there is a problem unless we as the student body bring the problem to them. And not just a problem, but solutions and solutions and solutions for them, so that there is no excuse to why they cannot do something for us. So the main way I want to help with transportation is to have more commuter students be involved. There's no reason why there's 54,000 students and only 25 send their applications for Student Government Association. So on the term of transportation, I want us to be able to hear more from our student body and get a more holistic response from the entire student body.
Thank you so much. Ms. Iqbal, a question for you. In past SGA administrations, there have been discrepancies in providing information to students. So how do you plan to better inform, involve, and represent the student body at Georgia State?
Okay, so communication is key, as they always say. So I think that there are three sub-problems here. Basically, there are students that don't have time, students that just don't care, and then students that just don't know what's going on. And so we have to take each of these three sub-problems separately. So for the students that don't have time, I think that we need to make easy access, like we're technology-driven, so that, you know, apps, forums, we have that kind of stuff. I think we need to promote it more. And then for students that don't really know what's going on, that's just being, like, spreading awareness around campus. You know, something as easy as just talking in the classroom can really spark a lot of ideas. And then for the students that don't care, I think we need to find out why they don't care and why they're not interested, because usually they just don't know what's going on. It's not like they don't care, it's that they don't find it interesting. So we have to find a way to make it fun and, like, involving.
Great, thank you so much. And one last question for you, Ms. Iqbal. Seeing as you will be actively updating other representatives on activities in the Atlanta campus as your position as EVP, how do you plan to improve consistent communication between all campuses and SGA entities?
Okay, so first of all, I think that, okay, so basically, like I was saying, communication is key. So we need to make sure that people know what's going on, because, you know, it's not usually the problem with people not wanting to communicate. It's that they don't know how to do it, or they just, like, forget. Everybody's busy, they don't know what's going on. So I think we need to find fast, easy communication that's relevant and hits the spot quickly.
Thank you.
All right, and then the last question is for Mr. Jones. The same question goes to you. How are you going to improve that consistent communication between all campuses and SGA entities?
Well, like Senator Berry said earlier, the number one thing that prohibits us and hinders us as SGA is that being so spread out amongst all 6 campuses, we don't really know each other. I personally trying to do a great job of getting to know all of my senators, getting to know my whole exec board, but I can't tell you that I know all the members of SGA currently active right now. And that's not just the fault of me, but that's the fault of us not really getting to know each other over the summer. If I was to be your next Atlanta campus executive vice president, I would make sure that in the retreat during August that we do more bonding and more actually getting to know each other, because we're all people and we all have things that relate to each other that we just don't touch on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. At this time, we're going to open up the floor for anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question. Is there anyone at this time? All right, so I have actually have one question for both of you, and y'all can go back and forth or respond to each other on this. So transparency is definitely a concern amongst students and everything like that. So acting as the Speaker of the Senate, as the head of these meetings, how are you going to, sorry about that, my bad. As EVP, how are you going to ensure that transparency is held between the students and the SGA members and the faculty of the university? Ms. Iqbal, you have the floor.
Okay. So first of all, I don't believe that if we're in power that we should be hiding anything that we're doing. Students should know what we're doing. We shouldn't try to, you know, like, if something's not going well, then we need to confront them and tell them that it's not going well. And I just believe that if you can build trust with the students that you're representing, then there will automatically be a platform of transparency that, I mean, all students will trust you, so there won't be any issues with, okay, are they actually telling the truth? Are they actually going to do this? That kind of stuff.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Jones?
I think for transparency, transparency coincides with conciseness and also involvement. So to be more transparent, people just need to know what's going on. So I know that I talked to the current executive vice president this year about doing more chats like President Becker does, with just short 2-minute videos of updates that's going on, in the updates that's happened this past month. I know that there are, as executive vice president, you have to do monthly reports that you give to your president, and it's simple to just make that a quick video that you could show to the student body so they're like, hey, we're SGA, we're actually doing things. And also with involvement, if they came to more meetings, then people would be able to know what's going on more. So that trust would be built, like nominee Iqbal said.
Thank you so much. And one more question for the both of you. You're welcome to respond. You have 30 seconds, or you can respond for 1 minute. To you, what are the 3 most pressing issues at Georgia State, and how do you plan to address that? Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
So the 3 most pressing issues to me at Georgia State, and also I believe to the entire student body, is transportation, financial aid, and campus involvement. So for transportation, like I said earlier, if you just provide the data to these administrators, then they'll get the bus rolling. Like what we did this year, one of our first initiatives that we tackled was the buses. The Blue Route stopped at 10:30 prior to this year, and Senator Aliman did great research on getting the bus routes extended to 12 o'clock. For financial aid, I know that next semester they're planning on rolling out a financial aid paycheck dispersion. So instead of getting your refund check all at one time, you would get that dispersed along the semester. Also, I know they're in talks of hiring more temp workers during the beginning and end of the semesters, because just putting financial aid in a bigger room does not give them more people. And for communication, I plan on working closely with the communications director on making sure that the SGA's promotions and posts do coincide with what's going on campus.
Great, thank you so much. And Ms. Iqbal, the same question to you.
Okay, so the 3 main things that I think are the most important are, first of all, using the high tuition rates that we pay more effectively, and then making sure that we need better advisors, to be honest, and I think that the perimeter campus needs to be more involved with the Atlanta campus. So with the first thing I said about the high tuition rates, I think that students are not using the resources that we give them effectively, so we need to make sure that they actually know what they're getting out of their tuition. And then with the advisors, there's a lot of advisors, and I'm not saying they're doing a bad job, but a lot of times you go to them and they won't necessarily know the prerequisites, or they won't necessarily know the best path that you can take. So I think that we need to advise our advisors. And then lastly, the perimeter campus involvement. So I was originally a perimeter student, and I was there before the merger and after the merger. And I can tell you that both times there wasn't much difference even after the merger. It's just like, okay, they changed the name. Nothing else really changed. And it's not just the students, it's the staff and the professors there as well that don't feel like they're part of GSU. So I think that we need to, Atlanta's like the palm of the hand, and then all the campuses are the fingers, so we need to actually work as a hand together.
All right, thank you, Ms. Iqbal. At this time, do we have a question? Yeah. Oh, yes. Can you go up to the microphone? Yeah, to the microphone.
I had a question because y'all were talking about the perimeter campuses, which, Georgia State has adopted them and we do have a merger. How can we make it for the downtown Atlanta campuses that we are more accessible to them? Because I know at this time we don't have transportation to them. I know that their tuition is much cheaper than ours, but when we take those classes, it's not much cheaper. So what can we do to, kind of adopt them into, downtown Atlanta culture?
Okay, so personally, I think that this is more of a top to bottom issue, that it's not the students that we have to address first, that it's the staff, the teachers, the professors, that they're not necessarily treated as GSU staff, they're treated as GSU perimeter staff, and then when they teach the students, they kind of act like we're perimeter professors, and so there's just this whole mindset there that we need to address first, and I think that we need to work with the higher ups, as students, we need to voice our opinions, that the higher ups need to first take action before we can even talk to the students about getting involved. So that's why.
First, thank you for your question. What was your name?
Leah. My name is Leah.
All right, so Leah, I think the first thing is getting rid of this mindset that there's a difference between perimeter campus and Atlanta campus. We are all one Georgia State. That was the main thing that our current President Gray ran on, is 6 campuses, 1 voice. And I think that one voice needs to be heard through the Student Government Association. If the student leaders of your campus are going to these events, going to the spotlight events or the PAC events, going out and just having a good time and being a Panther, then I feel like that will trickle down. Like she said, it's a top to bottom effect. It's not gonna start with each individual, it's gonna start with people looking at the leaders of their campus and figuring out, okay, this is how we do things here now, we're Georgia State, we're one voice.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else from the audience have a question? Yep.
Hey everybody. So my question essentially stems off of student involvement. I think it's pretty obvious to tell that student involvement is sort of lacking. And being a 4th-year student here, I can tell you there's a big difference between now and then when it comes to these debates. So I want to hear, if you guys both can answer this, what exactly do you plan to do, if elected, to increase student involvement, not just in SGA, but this campus as a whole?
You can go first.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm originally an artist. And so I didn't really think that there's a platform for me here. There's a lot of competitions and stuff, but I didn't really think about using my talent, what I'm able to do for the school. And I think that a lot of our students, actually probably most of our students, have potential to do something. That even if they're majoring in something else, they might have hobbies and talents that they can use that can help the school. So I think that if we build a platform for them to use their hobbies and talents, they'll want to get more involved because they know that they're good at it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So for me, I believe that when students feel like something is going to benefit them, that's when they'll show up. Anyone who's ever had to put on an event knows that free food brings people. So if people have a reason to go, then they'll go. I feel like now that people, especially in student government, something I realized this year is that a lot of our achievements and a lot of things that we're actually doing for the student body aren't being broadcasted to the student body. So if students know that what we're doing and what things are happening inside of Student Government Association are benefiting them as a student, then they'll be more inclined to go to the events.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. At this time, we are going to have another 10-minute intermission before we move on to the presidential debate, so we will continue after that.
Thank you to our candidates. Let's give a round of applause.
Major and sophomore.
You should.
And as a follow-up question, can you address the success? Can you address the ad hoc committee and safety that you've created and the progress that it's made thus far?
Did I get in the picture?
Yeah, you're
Nice.
not on. I was like, something's up. Okay.
There we go. Okay. Wow. I like this. I can get used to this. I can get used to this. Oh my God.
Okay. And make sure Brent doesn't ask this.
Yeah, we already scratched it out.
And smile.
Dear Diary, went to
Come on,
a
Franklin.
debate. Oh, snap.
Okay.
Okay.
You say are we muted?
Yeah.
No,
Not yet.
Not yet.
And not the smoking question. So do you want me to reword this? Come here. During the Turner Field protests. Are we asking one more, or is it just? She's sending it to us.
She is cool. That's president of the student voting. Okay, yeah. We have like a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, she's sending it now. Cool. This is fun. It's.
Yeah, I know.
You good though?
Yeah, I'm just stressed in life, so like I'm
So
just
this
trying
is, like,
not.
amplified.
I'm trying not to take it to the work, you know.
No, it's fine. Work is part of life, you know.
I guess we can just say, how would you tackle this issue? 'Cause like
How would you tackle? Oh, how about this? How would you tackle?
this.
Sorry. She's sending it now, so.
Yeah. But this is like as.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to type that out real quick?
I can just do this.
Here, and I'm gonna do what you gotta do. I'm gonna talk to them real quick.
Okay. can do it.
Okay.
Do you want
All
to
right.
remind them about the times?
I will.
Okay, cool.
Give me 1 minute. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the 2018 Georgia State University Student Government Association debates. We are about to call up our presidents now. I would like to call to the stage Cy Medali, Franklin Patterson, and Terry Fye, the candidates for president. All right, so just as a reminder to the candidates, I would like to remind you that you have 1 minute to answer each question, and just notify me if you would like to make a rebuttal to someone else's question. You will have 30 seconds to be able to do that. Once you make a rebuttal, then there will be no further rebuttals after that for the one specific question, just to keep the debate flowing. So at this time, you each will have 1 minute to introduce yourself, and we're just going to go down the line. We're going to start with Mr. Patterson. You have the floor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Franklin Patterson. And right now we have a problem on our campus. Slowly, the student voice is starting to die. As your president, I promise that I'll make sure that that never happens under my watch. Right now, every time I walk onto campus and I talk to a student, they deal with 4 specific issues: financial aid, advising transportation, and public safety. With my Patterson 3, the platforms that I plan to use to combat these issues, I want to increase student involvement, increase more opportunities for students in terms of jobs, and advocate for the end of the problem that troubles our city in terms of sex trafficking. As a presidential candidate, I am humbled to be here today because I know I'm now granted the opportunity to serve you, the student, and I promise I won't let you down. So join me in sparking the flame for 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Medali, you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Cy Medali. I'm a computer science major and social entrepreneurship double major. I am the current university-wide executive board communications director. I am running on 4 issues that I really think are super important: sustainable environmental solutions. I'm running on student leadership, safety, and also improving student involvement. So I'm going to do these through a number of initiatives that I hope that we get to talk about tonight. And I really want to make sure that I get to meet each one of you and get to talk to you about further involvement. I think it's important that we make a bigger impact on campus. And I know I could do this if you come out and talk to the candidates today. Not just me, but any of them. Thank you.
And Mr. Fye, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I would like to take this moment before I start to thank the Signal and the Atlanta campus for hosting this debate. I'm really happy to be back out here. This place feels like a home away from home. But to get back into it, my name is Terry Fye, and I'm the Speaker of the Senate of the Dunwoody Center of Student Government Association for Georgia State. I'm happy to be here to talk about my platforms and talk about 3 words that they stand on: service, guidance, and altruism. Authenticity, excuse me. Service. We as an SGA serve you, the students, and we will continue to do so as we enter into this next administration. Guidance. We as a Student Government Association guide you and the administration to help etch out problems that we face as a community on this Georgia State campus, on all Georgia State campuses. And authentic student leaders. We as a university are authentic because you try to be authentic. We all try to be authentic. And ultimately, I want to make sure that we continue to be the authentic student leaders that you need. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fye. So at this time, we're going to ask a question that applies to all 3 of the candidates, and we'll just go down the line again. Starting with you, Mr. Fye, why do you think that you're the best candidate to serve as president of the student body?
Thank you. Well, even though that's a good question, I personally do not believe that I am the best candidate. Nobody can say that they are the best candidate because ultimately your work stands for you and your work stands for what you are. So we aren't all presidents yet. So I can't really answer that. But I can say as a candidate, I'm completely in love, and I really love working with the Student Government Association. I'm dedicated and passionate about working with this program and continuing the legacy that President Gray has set for our university and our Student Government Association. I want to continue to serve the students and continue to do my job as a student leader.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fye. Mr. Madali, you have the floor for 1 minute.
Hey, so I think I'm the best candidate because I have the highest experience in terms of being the only member on executive board for university-wide student government. I also think I'm the best candidate because I am actively trying to make change on campus. Right now, I'm doing things in addition to campaigning. I'm not only going out there to make sure that I talk to you and learn your concerns, I'm also making sure that I do and solve them. I recently have gotten recycling and composting approved for Greek housing. I've gotten this $400 raised for a career closet, a program that allows students to check out professional clothing for employment and interviews. And I am also working on, I've also officialized an improved bus tracking system with the computer science department so that we can get reliable data on where the routes will go. And in addition to that, on where we can have covered bus stops, which I'm actively working to promote.
Thank you, Mr. Madali. Mr. Patterson, you have the floor.
I believe that the best leader is the biggest servant. And I have been serving SGA for 2 years now. I'm the only candidate on this stage who has served on both Perimeter and Atlanta, and I've realized in both SGAs the work that it takes to serve everybody equally. I know the problems that we face in the future, and as a candidate, I have actively worked several times to do initiatives for each campus and to make sure that everyone feels included. On top of that, my biggest goal is to serve everybody, the student, which is all of you. I don't care about my well-being unless I know that someone else is doing better than me. I want to uplift everybody and not downplay anybody at all. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. And now we have a second question that does apply to all three of you. The question is, in the past, there have been issues where students have expressed concern about university policies. Some of these can be examples of smoking on campus, and last year, the Turner Field protest. How would you go about communicating to those students' concerns to the university and being an active voice for student interests? Mr. Patterson, I'll start with you. You have the floor.
So the smoking on campus has been a big issue, and it's actually something that I've tried to tackle. I've contacted several administrators and just trying to make sure that everybody's needs are met. And I'm not going to lie, it was not the easiest process. To be an advocate for the students' voice on both sides of the issue, on one side, students who want a smoking area on campus, on the other side, students who don't want that area at all, was troubling. However, the best way I believe is to bring both sides to the table and try to come up with a solution that works for both of us. Talking to the administration, but also being a strong advocate for the student's voice at the same time, I believe is the best way to solve that issue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Patterson. We're going to move on to Mr. Madali. You have the floor with the same question.
So in my previous role, current role as university-wide communications director, I've really understood that communication is the major point of how we address some of these problems that people face. And I think it's important that SGA, as the body between the students and administration, takes a stance on a lot of these issues. Currently, I do not think we've passed a resolution this semester on regards to how we feel about some of the current climate situations that are happening. And I think it's important that we do so. So at the next university-wide meeting, I want to propose a letter in response to the SB 452 bill and show that Georgia State SGA is not in support of something like that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Madali. And the same question again for Mr. Fye. You now have the floor.
Thank you. Ultimately, as a Student Government Association, we are to stand as the leaders on campus. We're ultimately stand as the example of students. And so when it comes down to an issue like smoking on campus, we have to take a stance when it comes to students following doing that. So Whenever students are smoking on campus, something that Senator Patterson said during our safety ad hoc meeting was, take a stance and tell students, hey, you're not supposed to be smoking on campus. We're trying to get something. If you want something done, talk with us. We can work together and we can make something happen where you have a smoking area on campus. However, we have to make sure that we work together, not as an SGA, but as a community, as students together, that we come together and create solutions to university-wide policies. We ultimately work within the rules to help make the students' lives better.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fye. So now we're going to go by each candidate and ask a few questions. And we're going to start with you, Mr. Medali. In your presidential application, you said that you want to improve transparency between SGA and the students. How will you help to develop that transparency between the university departments, SGA, and the student body?
So when writing my application, I was reflecting back on some of the things that we have as resources on campus and how you can't access them if you're in a specific college or you're a student in a specific grade. I think it's crazy that if you're in a specific college, then you can't access the resources of maybe like the Robinson School of Business College. So that's kind of what I want to do, is kind of blend some of those resources so that we have the opportunity, at least, that students can participate in multiple departments' resources. So if you wanted to go to the internship fair that they have, at least having a fee and allowing other students to come in rather than just keeping it blocked off. And in addition to that, I want to have a web archive of everything SGA is working on, because currently you have no way except just emailing me to know how you can get in touch with what your initiative is doing. So you don't know if there's progress on it, you don't know who's working on it, you don't know any of the motions that have been passed to fix it. And I think a web archive that has all that information has accountability and allows you to know what to expect from your senators. And using that, we can make sure that the SGA is serving you better.
Thank you for that response. And in the same light as transparency, you said you want to implement methods to hold SGA accountable by increasing student access to representatives. So what methods do you propose to increase student involvement and participation, such as increased student attendance in meetings?
Right, so currently as communications director, I'm working on creating a recruitment event next semester, so that right when new students come in, we have, in addition to just the organizations fair, right, that goes on, a SGA event so that students can learn that they can be a part of our committees. You can join the safety ad hoc committee, you can join the communications committee, you could join the student life committee and be parts of these committees and make change with your senators, even without having to run for office. And I think that's important that we get students there, because those are the students that will replace the senators that aren't working to their standards. Those are the students that will make sure things are happening. And I think that's a great step point to like get other people into SGA, keep that continuous flow, and improve the overall performance of our organization. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Medali. The next question is for you, Mr. Patterson. Since you are interested in community and student involvement, how do you plan to improve student involvement and representation of the students at Georgia State?
All right, so that's actually one of the biggest parts of my Black platform that I've been running on. The number one thing that Georgia State lacks right now that other colleges have where student involvement is high is a tradition. At Emory even, they have a tradition where their mascot goes to each class one day of the week. Class gets canceled as soon as the mascot walks in, every student is able to walk out. I believe creating a tradition on the Georgia State campus will help us to bring the community together and help every student to feel like they're involved. That's the number one thing that we're aiming towards. Representing each and every student on Georgia State is one of the biggest things as well, because Georgia State is no longer just Atlanta. It's Dunwoody, it's Alpharetta, it's Clarkston, it's the Newton campus, it's the Decatur campus. All these campuses are Georgia State. So in order to equally represent these students, we need to do something that unites all of us, and I believe a tradition would be the best way to do that.
And thank you, Mr. Patterson.
And the next question is also for you, Mr. Patterson. In your presidential application, you said that you plan to increase community outreach at Georgia State and noted in your introduction that sex trafficking is a large problem in Atlanta. So with the city's trafficking and homelessness prevalence, what are 3 specific ideas you have to include the surrounding community in initiatives while enhancing safety of students?
So This is not an easy question, I won't lie, because as students, a lot of the times we're underlooked and undervalued when we come up with ideas. Currently, I have worked with Run to Rescue, it's a nonprofit Christian organization which fights against sex trafficking within the city of Atlanta, and I actually am on a couple of boards within the city of Atlanta government to actually come up with solutions to end sex trafficking on campus. 3 issues that we run into is a lot of people don't care about the situation unless it happens to them. And a lack of apathy for the situation is what we're dealing with right now. The 3 solutions I can come up with, one would be more awareness on campus. Right now we have seen an uptick in awareness and sex trafficking awareness on campus by clubs and organizations, and that's good, but we do still need more because this is a prevalent problem within our community. Secondly, I would say more volunteer opportunities for students to get involved because a lot of people know about the situation, but they don't know how to get started. Third, I would say more protests at our state government houses.
All right, so as a follow-up to what you just said, we're aware that you were on the Safety Ad Hoc Committee within SGA, and I was wondering if you can address the progress of that. Were there any successes or failures involved with that committee since it is more focused on the student safety?
So when I first became the head of the Ad Hoc Safety Committee within our campus and university-wide, I was told that there was actually an ad hoc committee like this beforehand about 10 years ago, but for some reason it stopped. And since the consolidation, this is the first time we're all once again together and sitting around the table. I would say that this year was mainly about building up communication with the police and establishing a relationship and creating credibility among us. However, the biggest success I would say that we did have this semester was with the phone snatching. We brought the concerns that the students had, brought it to Sergeant Erica Lewis, who was our liaison between us and the chief head of police. And we were able to bring notes and tips for students to make sure that they don't get their phones snatched, essentially. On top of that, we also held an event, Community Day. Some of y'all were there, I appreciate that. March 1st actually, we had Community Day where we actually had the police and the students sitting around the table playing cards, something that usually doesn't happen. And so just creating a name and a face to the officers that we serve, and also doing the same thing vice versa, I would say was our biggest accomplishment this year.
May I add on something?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have 30 seconds.
So I wanted to point out that I was also a member of the Safety Advisory Ad Hoc Committee and proposing solutions to current problems. I wanted to make sure that we had signage that lets you know when you're on Georgia State jurisdiction. Unfortunately, this idea was shot down because it was too hard to implement. And I just wanted to point out, if I'm president of your student government association, no idea like safety is going to be too hard to figure out to make sure that we can have it happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Medali. So, Mr. Fye, so this question is for you. You mentioned that you were involved in the perimeter campuses as a student and as a member of the Theater Arts Guild.
Yes.
As a perimeter student running for office, how do you plan to better include all of the Georgia State campuses and initiatives during your term and help perimeter college campuses be more included in conversation and be better represented in SGA?
Thank you. Well, I can't say that thanks to the efforts I would like to acknowledge the efforts of President Gray first before I say that. He's definitely taken a great step forward in including all the perimeter college campuses, all the other Georgia State campuses, excuse me. But I can say that as a candidate, I plan on not only having all EVPs at the table and having every single EVP at my discussion table whenever we discuss issues that affect campuses and that affect all of our communities. That we intend to work together and that we are putting together our best foot forward. And ultimately, we as a Georgia State need to work together to help be inclusive, because ultimately we all can take care of each other. We all can work together and find issues, because one of the things I learned being on the Clarkson campus and the Dunwoody campus is I learned that there are the same ways to figure out the same issues. There are different ways to take on the same problems that we all face. Like one of the things that Senator Patterson was saying, is campus safety, and putting the face to a police officer. We all on the Clarkson campus, I remember them having I remember them having a campus carry info session with their public safety officers. That's something that they did to put forward an effort with creating a face with an officer. And so what's something that Dunwoody did, prior to that I helped give them the idea, a prior event that we had was another campus carry coffee corner that we helped invite our public safety officer, Lieutenant Harvey. We invited him out to our campus, our coffee corner, and we helped him, and we had him explain to students what campus carry was, how they could work within the rules, and how they could basically do what they had to do to feel safe on campus. So it's about taking and exchanging ideas with each other to create a better Georgia State community on all campuses.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fye. So we're going to move back to Mr. Medali. So, Mr. Medali, if you can, address the fact that you're a freshman here at Georgia State. How do you think that this can play as a strength since you might be a little newer than the other candidates to the college experience?
I love that you asked that question because I get asked that question a lot. So first off, I'm the only candidate that's been on university-wide executive board. Secondly, I think it's incredibly important that I am a freshman. I can continue on these initiatives that we start. I'm not worried about just graduating and then leaving all this in the dust. I'm continuing whatever we work on this year, next year, the year after that, and then the last year too. I'm in here for the long haul, and that means better initiatives, more sustainable initiatives, and just overall more impactful initiatives.
Thank you for your response. Yeah, you have 30 seconds.
So, same as I came in here as a freshman as well, and I have served with SGA on the Clarkson campus as the financial director on the executive board, as well as leading the Student Activity Feed Council on the perimeter side for SGA, telling people where their money should go and making sure that we're an advocate voice for the students as well. So all of that experience adds up. And of course, being one year in SGA taught me a lot, but 2 years taught me even more and how to get things done.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. I'm so sorry. This next question is for you, Mr. Fye. How will you hold senators accountable for keeping open lines of communication with the student body and translating those concerns into Senate meetings?
All right, thank you. Well, as a Speaker of the Senate, that's my main job, is to hold my senators accountable when it comes to making sure that students know what they're doing. And so one thing we do on the Dunwoody campus is that we come into the cafeteria and we basically table within the cafeteria and play on our projectors feed. We have projectors and televisions within our student center. And so we play music and we allow students to see on the projectors our minutes, everything that we do on campus, everything that we do with all the goals and activities and events that we plan on campus. And that's one way I hope to keep doing on all campuses. I hope to keep finding creative solutions like that to allow senators to tell students what they're doing on campus, because ultimately it's as one of the prior EVP candidates, I believe Anthony Jones said. It's a trickle-down effect. We have to let students know that we have to let students know what we're doing by holding our senators just as accountable as we hold ourselves. We have to be authentic when it comes to leading our senators. And as authentic student leaders, we have to be authentic when it comes to leading our students.
Thank you for that. And one more question for you.
Thank you.
Maintaining mental health has become a growing issue for students everywhere in college. And in your presidential application, you mentioned several times how Georgia State students are overwhelmed or stressed by life, school, or other factors. So what would you do to ensure Georgia State students are getting the support they need and vouch for more mental health awareness?
Well, one of my main initiatives that I want to bring forward is an SGA support group, something that we can all come together. See, one of the best things that people like to do in our lives is talk about themselves. I know I like to do it a lot. But if we get students together and we allow them to just talk and vent about what they're going through, because some of the best medicine that we can have is therapy, laughter, working together to figure out issues that we can solve together. Because ultimately, even though we have therapists, even though we have psychiatrists, even though we have therapists and people on campus to help us with that mental issue on campus, we can help each other. We can help support each other and give each other the support that we need. I remember that I had an issue on campus where there was this one student who was feeling like she was just coming to campus, just coming to sit in meetings. I mean, she wasn't just coming to campus just to go to class, just to leave. You know, she had parking camp class syndrome. And so one thing she did, she came to our meeting. I remember her coming to one of our meetings, and my EVP, my Executive Vice President, Jessica Licks, let her know that you are not alone. We as an SGA are with you in this journey. We're students too. We know what that's like. We know what that's like to feel stressed. We know what that's like to feel like nothing is there, nobody's there to help you. When in actuality, we are all here together as panthers. Panthers travel in a pack. We don't hunt alone. No, wait, lions travel in a pack. Excuse me for that. Sorry, I ain't a biologist for a reason. Now, we work together, and we have to help each other out and make sure that we are working together and letting everybody know about psychiatrists on campus, people who can help them with their mental issues and everything that they face. So ultimately, it's about working together.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fye. So this next question goes to Mr. Patterson. So as a former Clarkston campus student and your life at Perimeter campus and everything like that, how do you plan to increase the engagement and communication between not only student government and the student body here at the downtown campus, or at the Atlanta campus, but the student bodies of all of the campuses?
To increase engagement across university-wide, Georgia State, abroad, the first thing that we need to do, I believe, is one, interact with the clubs on each and every campus. Because the clubs entice students to join, and that's where we'll find the majority of students who want to be active. But besides, not just the active students, we also need to encourage, and increasing student involvement means all students across the board. And so in order to do that, I propose, one, the tradition. If we create a tradition on Georgia State's university-wide campus, I believe more students will come. Two, I believe that we also do need to talk to the clubs on each and every campus and get universal clubs going, because we have over 250 clubs on the Atlanta campus. At the same time, we have an ASA on the Clarkston campus, an ASA on the Decatur campus, and an ASA on the Atlanta campus. ASA is the African Student Association. But yet, every time these clubs try to get in touch with the Atlanta campus to do an event, it usually doesn't happen. I think that's something that we can start and bridge the gap on that, and that will increase student involvement as well.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Now we're going to open up the floor to the audience, so if you have any questions, please feel free to come to the microphone at the center of the room.
Don't be shy. Do you need help with that?
Chuck got it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
What a gentleman.
Right, thanks. There's a lot of mention of being the voice of students, but how do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and what your future plans are?
Could you repeat that question? I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So there's like a lot of mention of being the voice of the student, but how do you plan on involving the student body and hearing them out on what your future plans are?
Ooh, can I have that question?
I think all of us can answer it.
Oh, I'm sorry. May I go first?
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, and can I ask your name? Jasmine. Nice to meet you, Jasmine. I'm Terry. But one way that we can help to encourage students to get involved in our campus, would you say SGA as a whole, or our entire campus, our entire university, excuse me? And our university. So one of the best ways that we can encourage students to get involved with our university is just have fun. Because ultimately, people want to join in when they see other people laughing and being authentic and having fun. Because ultimately, if we show them that SGA is just work, live, die. If we show them that SGA is all like, yeah, I love serving students. Yeah, I love making people laugh. Yeah, I love being a part of my campus. It's something that makes them want to join. Because ultimately, I got involved in SGA because I saw SGA was having fun. Franklin got involved with SGA because he saw something that he wanted to gain from SGA, I assume. And I assume that many people in SGA joined because they saw that it was something great that they wanted to be a part of. Being a part of the university is one of the greatest things that one of the greatest things in my college career to be here. Joining a royal court was a great solution because I saw that I wanted to get involved. I wanted to just have fun. I just wanted to be a part of something. And so it's about getting that hook and getting students to buy in. It's like fishing. I'm sorry, y'all. It's like fishing. You got to reel them in with the bait and get them in. You have to let them know that you got to have something to entice them. And as much as free food gets good students involved with events, they're not going to keep coming back unless they have a reason to come back.
Mr. Madali?
Awesome. So I wanted to address that by talking about some of those initiatives that I've already mentioned, such as that web archive, but I also want to talk about other things that I didn't get to mention. I want to have those video chats that a lot of people have already mentioned. I want to make sure that happens. And I was the first SGA representative to be able to make a university-wide SGA promo video. So I know I can make it happen. I've actually also been the largest contributor to our newsletter, newsletters this year. And I've also improved our impressions on social media more than the last year altogether. So I know that also needs to be improved. But I also think that we could get more student involvement by showing them change. I think it's important to do that, not just say kind of like we need to improve our culture, we need to improve this. We need to really just show them that if you're a part of this, you can make change on campus. And I have a number of initiatives that I want to make sure that happens. As you've heard throughout the debate, some of the ones that I haven't also mentioned, I want to get the Atlanta airport to have donations at the security check-in that would go towards our Panther Food Recovery Network if it's unopened. I want to have Calendly for advisors so that you can book your advisor without having to wait so long in those lines. I want to do so many other things, and I know that doing those will get more student involvement because your experience matters to each one of you.
Mr. Patterson?
One of the main reasons I joined SGA was to create more of a student voice, because I noticed that was the one thing, like when I stated earlier before today, the student voice is dying. Decisions are being made without student impact and student responses. So when decisions get made, students don't know about it. That's one thing, when I was talking to students today in Plaza, just walking around talking to students, I noticed that's the #1 issue that they had. They want to get involved with these clubs. They want to get involved with everything that goes on campus. However, they don't know that it's going on. Going off of Sai's idea, communication is key. However, one thing that we did do on Clarkston, where we had a great culture and students came to our events, was we implemented a suggestion box. If you had a problem, write your suggestion on the box. We'll read it, call you, get you in, get you on a committee, let you sit down and speak on the issues that you had and try to get you in front of somebody who can solve that issue. That's something that I want to bring to Atlanta, but it has to be in university-wide, but it has to be on a wider level. And I think social media is definitely going to be a wide impact for that, increasing that student's voice.
I just wanted to add that you can reach out to SGA currently. You can walk into the office and we'll give you the contact information for whomever you need to speak to. You can DM us on any of our social media. I'll respond. You can email any of us and that'll work too. So you can come to us and you can already have that involvement if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Madali. We'll now take the next question in the line.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Terry, how you doing? So my name is Josh King, like Terry said. My question is, all three of you are current members of SGA. So with that experience, what would you say is one thing that you've seen that you would identify as a problem within SGA that you plan to fix, and how do you want to fix that?
I'll go ahead and start. So one thing that I noticed within SGA, both the previous year and this year, is we all come in there with passion to get things done and to change things. But it's just like class. You walk in wanting an A. After the first couple of weeks and the first couple of tests, you'll take a B. And then later on during the year, you'll be lucky just to pass. That's what SGA is like right now. People come in wanting to do initiatives. However, the red tape that is around the things that we want to get done and the issues, on top of being a student, the fire gets dampened out. That's one thing that I believe needs to change within SGA. That starts by building relationships with each other, not just on the Atlanta campus, but also university-wide. Because I can promise you here today, not everybody up on this stage and not everybody within SGA knows everybody's name. I can make that promise, because I know I don't, and that's something I'm trying to improve on myself. So to improve that issue, that's something we first need to do, because before we can serve the students, we need to trust each other.
May I take that? Okay. Thank you, sir. So I would like to hop off of what Senator Patterson was saying. Yes, there is that issue of students, senators, and all of us. We all lose that fire whenever we come in and whenever we try to put things together. And there's an issue with that because on many of the campuses, I don't know how many of you have looked at the election ballot, but currently on all campuses in terms of university-wide, we're missing several campuses without representation because many senator seats have not been filled. And ultimately, we have senators who are, as those seats get smaller, the work stays the same and that weight gets harder and it starts to crush their passion because ultimately they have to, even though they want to take on their own projects, their own ideas, they ultimately have to keep up and hold the work on everybody else. That's something we faced at Dunwoody recently. When we started this first academic year, we had only myself, an executive vice president, and two senators. And so we had to put together and make sure that we trudged through that extra hard work and that we held each other accountable and that we worked together. Because ultimately, we had an executive vice president who told us that we can make things happen no matter what happened, no matter how low our number was, excuse me. No matter how low our numbers were, we can make things happen. We can put together these events. We can put together these coffee corners. We can let students know. And now we have a full Senate. Now we have students itching, just scratching in, just trying to get into our Senate. And it is because we motivated each other. We kept each other accountable. We worked together. And now, ultimately, we have students who are trying to figure out, hey, how can I run for president, even though the application already closed, and I don't want no competition. But it's ultimately about keeping each other accountable and working together because ultimately we all slip. We all fall. Even though we try to be authentic, which is one of my platforms, we all try to be authentic. But sometimes we fail. Sometimes we fall. Sometimes we're not able to read that email. Sometimes we're not able to respond to Boyd, and I'm so sorry. And sometimes we're not able to do our job to the 110% we said that we were going to do in our platforms, but we keep working together. We're together like Corey said, and we keep working so that years and years online, even though we're gone, our initiatives are still there.
So I just wanted to state that through increased student involvement, through as the other two great candidates have already mentioned, doing the stuff that succeeds, you will get that increased involvement, but also that fire doesn't need to die. There are tons of seniors that are still working super hard in SGA activities. And I know for a fact that it doesn't have to die with them, it hasn't died with me. And in addition to my 15 hours per week that I already spend in the SGA office spending on communication director work, I also do the initiatives around that. I don't think that we have to let that be a culture, and as other candidates have mentioned today, it is a trickle-down effect. Shown through me, shown through the other candidates, you will see a change in the student involvement just as long as they're working as hard as I promise you I will. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And do we have another question in line?
We got a few. But,
a few.
So when it comes to the president position itself, it's a little sometimes easy to get lost in meetings, work with administration, but how do you three as presidential candidates plan to ensure to students that you are an advocate, more so than a liaison between administration and the university?
I believe that begins by, one, doing what we say we will do. When I came into SGA this year, as a senator on the Atlanta campus, I came in with several initiatives, and currently I'm still working on those initiatives, getting the smoking area on campus, but not necessarily on campus. I'm working on that. I'm emailing administrators. I'm working on creating more involvement on campus. So I'm talking to clubs, trying to get clubs together to do certain things and throw certain events for students. That all begins by showing, like I said, the greatest leader is the biggest servant. And to show students that we truly are on their side, to show students that we're not just a mouthpiece for the administration. we first need to show them that we believe in them and that we are listening and that we fight for you first. And we make sure that we fight till the end before we give in, unless there's no solution. And I believe that's the biggest way that we will show students that we are advocate for you and not anyone else.
I think it's really important that we do have those meetings. I think, so as president, you get granted to be able to meet with administration much more frequently than any regular student. So I think it's important that those meetings be looked at with a positive attitude and strong determination to bring about change, even if it doesn't go in your favor the first time, that those meetings will have to happen, and that you want to, at the end, go to those meetings so that you can make change happen.
Okay then. Jan, are you still, oh, there you are. I'm sorry, I'm blind. Could you repeat that question that you said with the exact words that you used? Okay. So not as that I'm still continuing. So how can we, as candidates for presidents, that we will not get lost and not allow the meetings to bog us down, that we will still continue with our main vision? Absolutely. Well, I can say this. I don't know of any, and I don't mean to brag, I'm sorry about this, but there was a time when I was the Georgia State University Perimeter College Homecoming King. I was Mr. Perimeter. I had a little crown and a sash and everything. And one of the things that I ran on was ultimately being on multiple campuses and appearing at every Georgia State event and being there to be like, yeah, we're gonna have fun. We're a part of Georgia State. Go Panthers. And as that year went by, I began to just get bogged down by classes, get bogged down because I just joined SGA at the time and I did not allow, and all that work really started getting heavy on me. But one of the things as I kept going, I remembered that those promises that I made was to be on campus and to be a part of events and to enforce school spirit as an additional role. So while I was in SGA, I still had the responsibilities as Mr. Perimeter to hold up. And I believe that as we all are parts of SGA, we still have those responsibilities to those meetings. We still have responsibilities to reading the emails that we get from all of our advisors, being able to respond to students, being able to respond with the administrators. But even though it's a one-man job, it is all of our jobs. We can help alleviate that stress on each other, as well as continue to make ourselves better, because ultimately, iron sharpens iron. You don't get sharper without stress. You don't get sharper, you don't get stronger without resistance of weights. You see, I like lifting weights. And so to get big muscles, you have to continue to push yourself. You have to continue to work and go beyond what you originally thought you could do. I didn't know I could run meetings. I didn't know I could be in debates. I didn't know I could just stand for several hours and recite lines on stage. But I learned that through going through that stress and letting that pressure turn me into a great student leader. And ultimately, that's something that belongs in every student. Because in every coal, if you put it under a little bit of pressure for a couple of billion years, you get a diamond. And that's ultimately what I see in all of you, diamonds.
Unfortunately, we have to move on. I'm so sorry. Just a reminder, we do have to shorten your responses to 30 seconds since we do have so many questions from the audience.
I am so sorry, y'all.
So, yeah. Can we have the next question from the audience?
Hi, I'm Carissa Love. I'm an officer in the student environmental team. Currently, GSU is undergoing a lot of development and building changes, and I want to know how you guys are going to make those changes sustainable.
So I'd like to start, as I mentioned on my platform, so one of the major initiatives that I want to focus on is environmental sustainability. As Carissa talked, that Kell Hall will be destroyed and then they will have that park area there. I think that we need to have more community gardens there. We need to have more abilities for people to interact with sustainable solutions. Maybe even implementing one of those bee hives that a lot of other campuses also have. I think that we can. So thank you.
Mr. Patterson, you now have the floor.
So I agree as well. So the first thing I would say is sustainability is important because the environment is that's what we're going to leave, and that's what we live in right now. So it starts once again with community outreach, clubs, getting in contact with clubs, talking to the building administrators, making sure that we implement the right things to make sure that we aren't leaving water bottles on the side of the road. We're not, trash isn't left all over the place. The construction that they're tearing down, the rubble that they use, that everything is going where it should go at the same time. I believe that was your main concern as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Fye, you now have the floor.
Thank you. So I don't know if any of you know this, but Decatur campus actually has a botanical garden. And so one of the things that they do, their SGA does, is they help keep that garden up to date. They keep they till it, look at it. It's got beautiful vegetables. You should check it out sometimes. But one of the things I want to implement during my presidency is to have SGA service hours, where we are actively going out and serving the community and have every senator have to complete, as a Senate, 5 service hours. And whether that be picking up trash off the ground, picking up things and helping students and joining and volunteering at clubs, this is how we can.
Thank you, Mr. Fye.
Thank you.
So we're going to take the next question from the audience at this time.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jones. I'm an officer with the Student Environmental Team. My question for y'all, in the current state of things, it's pretty dangerous to be riding your bike on many of the streets around campus. Do you guys support putting cycle tracks, which are 2-way bike lanes, on the streets to allow students to be safer? And if so, how would you work with the administration and the city of Atlanta to do that?
So I am in full support of that because it is, right now, all the construction going on within the city is not safe for anybody. Also, it's increasing traffic on campus as well. So public safety, like I said, is one of the biggest problems that I'm trying to work on as well. And as already having that established connection with Sergeant Lewis, I believe that we can also get the police involved to make sure that becomes a possibility. So afterwards, if we could sit down and talk about that a little bit more, I'll be willing to do that because I not only have 30 seconds.
I'm in fully support of that as well. As we bring road lanes smaller, you actually see a lot more pedestrian traffic and a lot less traffic in general from cars. And I think that we can also make that a possibility by using that bus data I mentioned before and at creating those optimal routes, making sure that we have an ability for students to actually use our buses and that way not have to rely on their own cars, whether they're commuting from out of just the campus in general or whether it's just on campus.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Jessica Jones, first off, amazing name. I did not know that was an issue on the Atlanta campus, and I'm very glad that you brought that forward to me so that I can add that to my platform. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I'm not able to answer your question at this time. However, I do promise to continue to follow up with that question and to continue to learn what we can do and try to bring that to President Becker as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fye. So now we're going to move on to the next audience question. You have the floor.
Hi, I'm Blake Fowler. I'm a member of the Student Environmental Team. So with climate change being a huge problem both on campus and internationally, and the city of Atlanta pledging to go fully green by 2035, how will you as president support those changes in the city?
So I believe that first starts by establishing a connection with our current mayor right now. So I believe as student government, we should already have that connection established. So this way, because we are in the heart of downtown, downtown will essentially become GSU in a couple of years. So I believe that's the biggest thing that we need to do. And like I said, afterwards, I'd like to answer your question a little bit more, so I'll meet with both of you.
Thank you. Mr. Medall, you have the floor.
I agree with Franklin. I do think that connection is incredibly important. And I also want to point out that we need more active engagement with the Sustainability Office on campus. They are working on making more sustainable buses. They are working on making more sustainable programs in general. And as I mentioned before, I ended up being able to get recycling and composting for Greek housing, which is going to expand to recycling and composting on all dorms. So having that connection will definitely make things more sustainable on campus.
Thank you, Mr. Medali. Mr. Fye, you have the floor.
Well, I would like to inform you that on the Dunwoody campus, we help promote the recycling bins on our campus, and so that's the one step that we've taken to continue to go green in our direction. And as president, I can hope to continue. Well, no, not as president. Sorry, I'm a candidate. Well, I hope to continue to keep the sustainability a main track and focus for SGA in general, and to help get a call up and to help. Can I give you my email?
All right, thank you, Mr. Fye. So at this time, we're only going to be accepting 3 more audience questions, and then we will be dismissed. So the next audience question, you have the floor.
Hello, my name is Jared Richmond. I'm a transfer student. This is my first semester here. I want to ask something about the concept of adding a tradition, annual tradition, because to me, after only a few short months here, I have really seen what it means to be a Panther. There is so much involved outside of the classroom. The culture is incredible, partly due to the world's busiest international airport being only a few exits away. So a light question, just if you were to implement a new tradition, what would it be?
So that's a good question. One that I cannot answer, not because I don't have an answer, but because I don't believe I should be the only one to answer that question. A tradition shouldn't be decided by one person. It should be decided by all of us. That's what makes it a tradition. So I plan to form a community and get clubs around the table and students around the table and administrators around the table, because it should be something that impacts all of us and that we can all rally against. So I appreciate the question, but I can't give you a direct answer on that.
I think it's important to note that as presidential candidates, all of us aren't just letting the initiatives that other people have go to waste. Even if a certain candidate doesn't win or lose, I promise you that they're going to work on some of those initiatives that they really think are great ideas. And I think Franklin's idea on having SGA work on a tradition is an incredible idea. So I completely agree with his process, and I also think that I would do the same exact thing.
All right, Mr. Fye, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would like to point out that Georgia State already has traditions. We come together and we already create those traditions on campus as a whole. Yes, as a consolidation, things have gotten a little fuzzy with how we create these traditions, but Georgia State has a tradition. It's about looking and finding those traditions. So ultimately, you said that this is your first, excuse me, what was your name? Jared. Jared, you said that you found that when you transferred here, you found out there was so much more than what you saw on campus, and ultimately that's what we need to look for. There are traditions on campus, such as joining Royal
Thank
Court.
you, Mr. Fye.
Thank you.
Sorry. So we'll be taking 2 more questions at this time. Next audience member, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Asia Haywood, and I am the 2017-2018 Miss Blue and White of Georgia State University, so hey, royalty. I want to say, first of all, you guys all sound like very great candidates, all the initiatives that you want to do. I definitely stand for them, and I like the way that you guys have displayed them, but you guys are the voice for us. The voice implies that there is a mouth, which implies the rest of the body, which implies an ear. And I believe, and from what I've seen, that there's been a voice for the students, but not an ear telling us what administration is saying as far as why some of the things that we want aren't being passed. So I want to know what you guys are going to do as far as letting us know why things aren't being passed, and if so, what you can do to have administration know that the things that we want, we are going to work for them.
I think I really addressed this with the initiative for a web archive. Having that ability to see what's going on with initiatives and what's stopping it, having that live understanding of what's going on is what I intend to do with that archive. I think also with documenting it, you'll know what to do with future initiatives. If I want to do something that that has already been slightly worked on in the past, then we can work on it. We can know what stopped them and solve that.
I can say that I can say that even as a rebuttal to what you said, SGA has minutes that you can look on, in which we give our reports on everything that we've done within the week on our SGA website. As communications director, you post those minutes. You see them.
That is true.
Excellent. And so I have space a couple of seconds. And so one of the things that we do, and one of the things that you can do is if you look at our minutes and see what we do, what we say in our reports, you can see how those minutes, how that straps up. One of the things that we did on Dunwoody is that we...
Sorry about that.
All right, so to answer your question, that is a good concern, that you need to know where your money and everything that we're doing as your voice is going, and that needs to be addressed to you. I actually went to the Macon campus, and Mercer University, their SGA, what they do is they post Instagram videos on all of their meetings so students can tune in, and I'm probably thinking that we can work on that communication by building a live feed for you to actually watch the meetings if you're not able to show up. Because yes, you can go online and look for the minutes, but no one really does that. It should be brought to you, so I believe social media will be the best construct for that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Patterson. We have one more question from the audience. You have the floor.
Hello, my name is Tyler Green. I'm a senior here, majoring in public relations, and I have a question for all three candidates. So, what is one of your biggest strengths that you have as the presidential candidate, and how can you play on that strength to further advance the experience of the Georgia State, or what it is to be a Georgia State Panther?
I'll go ahead and take that one real quick. All right, so my biggest strength is, just based off of SGA, but all of that, is I'm the biggest servant. I've served on both perimeter and Atlanta, and I know that that divide still exists in certain aspects. I was actually on the Decatur campus today where they felt that same divide, and I believe that because of that reason, I can bridge that gap.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Madali, you have the floor.
I was also on Decatur campus, so I just want to point out that I am going around making sure that I do get some of the primary campuses and voices to me. But I also wanted to address that, could you repeat the question, please? Is that, okay.
So my question was, what is one of your strengths as presidential candidate, and how can you play on that strength to further advance the experience of what it is to be a Georgia State Panther?
Right, and I would think my strength is that I'm driven to be an SGA by the progress I can get done, and that I will make sure that I am having progress done, because that's what's my motivating factor to continue serving and continue being here, is to make sure that I keep working as hard as I can to get change happen.
Thank you, Mr. Madali. Sorry about that. Mr. Fye, you now have the floor.
Thank you. My biggest strength is definitely my tenacity. I don't like to give up. I don't like to stop doing I don't like to stop serving students. I don't like to say no. And so when I just said no, I like to go forward and keep going. And so my biggest strength is I can go on multiple campuses and not get tired. I can run from Clarkston to Dunwoody in an hour, and I don't get tired. Like the song said, I don't get tired.
Thank you, Mr. Fye. Unfortunately, this will be the end of our questions from the floor, and we'd like to thank everyone for coming to the SGA debates for 2018. And thank you to all of the candidates as well that participated. We just want to remind you that the senator debates are tomorrow, and there's a live stream at georgiastatesignal.com/live. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're walking this way, that way.
That was fun.